How should you monitor your stock portfolio? You've done your purchases, you're happy, you have some cash aside, and you have your stocks. Now, every day, if you follow your portfolio, what should you look at? And should you look at it all the time? I know for some people, if you look at the financial markets every day and you look at your portfolio every day, you get this sense of urge to trade. So maybe for you, it's not a good idea to have a look at it all the time. Now, for me, I really enjoy looking at my portfolio and following it. And it's a part of my investment strategy to react when I think there's something that's exaggerated, so an exaggerated move in some direction. And one way, of course, if you get this urge that you can't follow your portfolio because you're going to act and you get these impulses to trade, one way to avoid this is to have two accounts. So you have one account where you just trade endlessly with small amounts every day, as much as you want, and then you have a long-term portfolio. And actually, I've always been restricted in how much I'm allowed to trade. And the first restriction I've had is because I've been working in the financial industry. My employer had a restriction, so I could only trade. I had to hold a position for 30 days. So I've always counted the days I have a stock. So I actually have a column in Excel. I have my portfolio and a dedicated column that shows how many days I've had the stock and how many days left. So I know when I make a purchase, I'm going to stick to it at least for a month. Now, that's not the only restriction I've had. And I would actually credit a lot of my success in investing to these external restrictions that I had. The other restriction is for tax purposes. So for long-term capital gains tax, there are usually, it depends on the country completely and where you live and your nationality, your residence. But for me, it's been 6 months. That's for the long-term capital gain tax is actually 0. So it's very important to count, okay, for how long have you held your position? And it makes it also very, very serious to time your purchase correctly. So you can't really do any impulse buying unless you're really willing to hold that for 6 months. And of course, you can always sell and pay more tax, or if you want to get rid of your position, no problem. But these restrictions actually makes it a little bit easier to invest. I always compare it to a musician, that when you have a startup musician that has only a guitar, a small drum machine, and making music in the garage, and then suddenly you give that musician a full studio, you get as many musicians as that musician wants to play in a band, and the musician can't do one single song, can't complete anything because you have so many alternatives. So the more restrictions you have, the easier it becomes. And so in my Excel, I have a column that shows how many days I have left, and it's the FIFO principle, so first in, first out. And this is also good to remember. So if you buy, let's say, 1,000 shares today, and then you buy 1,000 shares more in 3 months, I could actually sell 3 months after that the first 1,000 shares that I bought in January. And this way, if you don't go full position in, full position out, you actually have a little bit of wiggle room. And then you also have stocks that are almost the same thing. So for instance, you have the A shares and B shares. It used to be that the A shares had the voting right and the B shares did not. And these two share types usually go quite hand in hand. So if you like a particular company and they have A shares and B shares, what you can do is you can buy the A shares today and you buy the B shares in 3 months, and then you have a little bit of wiggle room because they tend to go together. And there's a lot of stocks that actually work like this in pairs. And it might be a good idea if you can benefit from this long-term capital gain tax rules to play around with these different share classes. So when you have your portfolio, it might be that you have a program that you do your trading with, and they show your active portfolio. They probably don't show this column of how many days you've held the position. But I recommend that if you use something like Excel or Google Sheets, they both have financial functions. They can both import stock prices. Even if it's a 15-minute delay, who cares? You get a good picture of a portfolio. And I would highly suggest you put in this column of how many days you've had the position or how many days left you have. It doesn't take a lot of programming skills to do that. And that way you can always follow that, okay, now I'm in the clear, I can sell it if I want to. And then, of course, you can re-enter the position. So that's usually what happens to me a lot, is that after 6 months, my holding is highlighted again. Okay, I can trade it again, and then I check, okay, did it go up enough? What's, have we had a nice bull run? Maybe I want to sell. If the S&P has gone up 8 days in a row, maybe I basically just sell it, and then I wait for a small dip and I buy it back, and then again it's locked for 6 months. And I think if you can use these restrictions, you can actually benefit from them. I don't think that they're tying you down, because a lot of new traders, they open up this big box of trading, and I know how it is when you get your trading platform. They offer everything and anything, and of course, if you start trying everything, I think there's a big chance that you will actually just lose money. And instead of going really, really simple, and that's what we do in vanilla equity, and the name is really plain vanilla. We don't try to complicate things, and make it really simple, and it will be much less stressful and much easier to follow. So I highly recommend you add this column in Excel, and that will help you monitor your portfolio. I'm Eric Snaell. You can go to vanillaequity.com and see how you can start to use more money to invest. So if you're really good at trading or investing, and you beat the indices all the time, but you don't have enough capital, then I think Vanilla Equity can help you. You get access to more money, and then we split the profits quarterly. But go to vanillaequity.com to find out more.